And good evening, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Focus Springfield. This evening we have got a debate between the candidates for the at-large seats on the City Council. Joining me tonight as our media panel is Liz Roman from the Republican, Adam Frenier from New England Public Radio, and Paul Tuthill from WAMC. Let me just explain a little bit about our structure for the debate tonight. I'm going to ask everybody a question after they get a 1-minute self-introduction. And then after that, we're going to go to our media panel, who's going to be asking questions of the entire group. So the entire group will be asking this, answering the same question. And then we're going to be doing candidate-to-candidate questions, in which each of the candidate can direct a specific question to another one of their colleagues. So that will be the structure here. I do want to say here at the beginning that one of the candidates did not come this evening, and he sent a statement. Christopher Polner said, "Unfortunately, due to last night's severe windstorm, I have to attend to emergency repairs with my business contracts. Therefore, I will be unable to attend your debate this evening. Thank you for the opportunity." So because he did send in a statement, we wanted to read that. So right now, we want to have each of our candidates introduce themselves. Please give your name for the audience and a 1-minute self-introduction. We're going to start with Jesse Letterman here at the top. Jesse?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening. My name is Jesse Letterman, and it's my honor and privilege to serve as one of your 5 at-large city councilors. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Springfield. I grew up in the McKnight neighborhood at the corner of Bay and Clarendon, and today I'm a homeowner in Forest Park along with my wife, Emila, with whom I just celebrated our first wedding anniversary. I'm a product of the Springfield Public Schools and a graduate of the University of Massachusetts Amherst. During my first term, I've worked to deliver results for all of our neighborhoods across the city of Springfield, whether it was working on innovative public safety initiatives such as the Hub and Core program, or holding public utilities accountable when it comes to gas leaks, water quality, and streetlights, and making local government more accessible through our town hall meetings. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation tonight and letting you know what we can do to make Springfield safer, healthier, and more prosperous in the next term.
Thank you, Jesse. I just want to remind our candidates, when they hear that single sound of the bell, that means you have 15 seconds left. Kadri Walsh?
Good evening. I'm Kadri Walsh. I'm a at-large city councilor running for re-election. I'm very proud of my record of service to the city of Springfield. I love the city of Springfield, which is why I've dedicated so much of my time and energy to making Springfield a better place to live and work. My husband Danny and I have raised 7 children here in the city of Springfield, and I now have 4 grandchildren in the city of Springfield. So I'm committed to making Springfield a safer city, a better city, and improving our schools. And I hope you consider me on November 5th.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Moriarty-Finn. As a first-time candidate in 2017, I was endorsed by the Republican newspaper because I was fiscally conservative, pragmatic, and thought that we needed a solid economic go-forward plan to make sure that we realized our best days ahead of us. I'm still that same candidate 2 years later. We need to invest, develop, protect, and serve each one of our 17 neighborhoods in the same manner that we've now done with our downtown area. When I'm not here asking for your vote, I live in Ward 2 with my husband David, our 2 rescued dogs. I work at Mass Mutual as a technology project manager, where being on time and on budget and managing people is my job. I will bring those resources to bear, as well as my love for the city, when I am elected to the Springfield City Council. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Israel Rivera. I'm a first-time candidate for the at-large seat. I want to run for Springfield City Councilor because I love this city. I've been born here in the city of Springfield. I've raised my 2 children here along with my wife, and I believe in the city. I believe in the people of the great city of Springfield, and to invest in the community to help bring about a different perspective to those people who are considering coming to the city, and how can we improve on the practices that are in place right now. I would consider your vote, and I would appreciate your vote on November 5th. And again, thank you for having us and having me here tonight.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go down to the second level here. We'll start with Sean Curran.
Good evening. My name is Sean Curran. I'm a lifelong City of Springfield resident. Currently, I'm employed by Hampden County District Attorney Anthony Gallooni. Previous to that, I worked in the City Law Department, and previous to that, for 10 years, I represented the City of Springfield on Beacon Hill. On Beacon Hill, I worked on projects such as bringing the University of Massachusetts to downtown Springfield, siting the CRRC train factory, as well as building the State Data Center. Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Johnny?
evening, everyone. I want to thank Focus Springfield for putting on this live debate tonight. My name is Johnny Ray McKnight, and I'm running for City Council at large. I'm running because I envision a Springfield where families thrive, a Springfield where we take care of our senior citizens because they have contributed so much to our communities and sacrificed so much for us. I want to make sure that they are comfortable in their golden years. I'm passionate about our seniors because if it wasn't for my grandmother taking me in at 3 months, I can't be certain I would be in front of you today. See, the crack epidemic of the 80s ruined my family, so I understand the opioid epidemic and what families are going through today. With your vote, I can be an advocate for those issues and more issues on the City Council. Thank you.
Tracy?
Good evening. My name is Tracy Whitfield, and I am a current Springfield City Councilor. I just finished my first term, and I love every minute of it. I am a lifelong resident of the City of Springfield and a proud product of Springfield Public Schools. I currently work as the Director of Business Development for Springfield Technical Community College and Holyoke Community College in Workforce Development. So I am committed to bringing the resources that folks need to earn a livable wage to the community. I am also a homeowner and a business owner in the City of Springfield, so I am invested to economic development, which homeowner and business ownership are a part of. I will work hard, I will continue to work hard for the residents, and I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
And Justin?
Thank you. Justin Hurst, President of the Springfield City Council. Thank you to Steve Carey and Focus Springfield for allowing us to have this debate this evening. I was born and raised in the city of Springfield, graduated from Springfield Central High School. And before I move on, I just want to give a shout out to Mahari Miller, who is a student at Central High School who just received a football scholarship to Columbia University in New York. And so it just goes to show you, we're going to talk about economic development this evening. We're also going to talk about our school system, but Central High School is clearly doing something right. And not only are they doing something right on the field, but they're doing something right in the classroom. I graduated from the University of Virginia, came back and went to Western New England College School of Law and also taught full-time. I knew I wanted to impact more than just the 200 students that I had before me every day, so I ran for City Council. I'm proud to serve on the City Council. I'm passionate about what I do, and I hope you'll consider me for, on November 5th.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate it. So my general question that will lead off the questions is going to be about MGM, which, if you don't know, is just behind these curtains. Recently, the Casino Advisory Committee, which was formed as part of the host community agreement between the City of Springfield and MGM, held its first organizational meeting. This group of people are going to be meeting to advise the city and advise MGM on a number of economic development issues in order to try to better leverage the success that MGM has seen so far to include other businesses, maybe other neighborhoods in the city. So one of you sits on that committee, and that's Mr. McKnight. The rest of you don't. So this is your opportunity to tell the listeners, the viewers at home, and for that matter, Mr. McKnight, what you would advise if you were sitting on committee. What would you like to see MGM do that would better leverage economic development that this casino stands for throughout the entire city? And I'm going to start with Sean Curran with that.
Well, I think the number one thing we could do is use that $25 million in revenue that we get from MGM to spread it out to the neighborhoods. When you go to some of the neighborhoods, for example, Forest Park, there's a lot of stuff we can do there in terms of infrastructure improvements. We can make the X a destination point for going out to restaurants and such things as that. Indian Orchard in downtown Indian Orchard, again, needs some development dollars. So I think the city needs a better needs to be more vocal about how we spend our MGM dollars and needs to use the talent of the MGM marketing department to market our neighborhoods such as Indian Orchard, Forest Park, Mason Square. And that's what would be my advice to the committee.
Okay, I'm just going to go mix and match here. So I'm going to ask Kateri Walsh. Kateri, what would you advise the committee about how they could better leverage MGM's success?
Well, I would advise the committee to make sure that they tout all the successes that MGM has already had. And MGM has kept their promise to the city in their hiring of women and minorities and veterans, and they do a lot of good things. And it's become a venue for people to go to. And they recently went to thank an artist down there, and I loved it that they had a skating rink, because, of course, Everett Barney made his fortune on ice skates, and they are promoting the history of Springfield. But I think they should fill those stores. I think their storefronts are beautiful, but it'd be a lot better if there was stores were actually down there and people were coming and going. I think you need more of a crowd downtown.
Thank you. Israel, how would you advise the committee about MGM?
Well, I would advise them to spread and diversify on the successes they had here in downtown. Absolutely, places like Forest Park can also use arts, music, and also keeping them to task on the hiring practices and even adopting training for new workers that are coming into the workforce. So I would hold them accountable, ask the tough questions, and make sure they're on track and holding their accountability to our city.
Thank you, sir. Jesse Letterman, what would your answer be?
Well, first, I think I want to address, I hear a lot of questions from residents about the revenue that comes in from MGM, and the term $25 million a year is brought up quite a bit because that's the number that was publicized during the election. And while it's true that the host community agreement does call for that number, prior to my election, the administration took a loan from MGM before the host community agreement payments began, and we are paying that loan back now. So as we see that revenue coming in, it has not completely hit $25 million yet. And I think the other thing that's very important to understand about the current state of the budget is that while the MGM revenue has done a great deal to stabilize Springfield's budget, we are still facing revenue shortfalls. And so when we talk about this, I think it's very important to bring that information forward. In terms of how we can spread out the development from downtown, I think we need to focus on development in our neighborhood centers, Mason Square, the X, Main Street, and Indian Orchard. We can have a big impact where our people live.
Thank you. Kelly, how would you advise them?
Thank you, Michael. First of all, I do find it rather shameful that the casino committee has been organized for such a very long time and has only had one meeting. I would love to see that body be much more engaged than it currently is. But let's bring those food trucks that were so popular this summer to every park throughout the summer. We have wonderful parks in our city. Let's bring MGM to the people rather than having the people come to MGM. The food trucks were wildly popular. On a side note, they have done wonders for nonprofits in our city. I'm a board member on Square One, and they are actively involved with Square One and many other nonprofits giving back their dollars to our city. So I think it's important that we give them kudos when it's deserved.
Thank you very much. Justin Hurst, what would your answer be?
Thank you. My answer would first to be patient. Springfield, MGM hasn't been here for that long for us to be that critical of what MGM is going to bring to Springfield. I think Kateri highlighted a very significant point in terms of the numbers. The fact that they have 40% residents being hired, the fact that they have 54% minorities, the fact that they hired 6% veterans, and they pretty much exceeded their numbers when it comes to minorities and veterans across the board is significant. What I would ask is that the committee monitor that and make sure that we maintain those levels, because it's critical that we ensure from an economic development standpoint that the citizens of Springfield are the ones that are receiving these jobs. In addition, I would hope that MGM courts the colleges in this particular area. The same Mahari Miller that I focused on, it doesn't do us much good if we have this gold mine of talent in the city of Springfield and then allow them to go to places like New York and Atlanta and stay. So we want to make sure we attract them back.
Thank you. Tracy?
So Johnny and the committee.
I'm giving him the last say here, as you notice.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk to him since he's on it. Johnny and the committee, I could ask for a lot of things as far as economic development goes. There are so many empty storefronts throughout the city, and yes, I would love to see the economic development that's happening downtown happen throughout the city in all neighborhoods. However, it's not just what I want, it's what the residents want. So how about have community meetings and ask the residents what they want in the neighborhood? We put a lot of pressure on what we think should happen in the community, but it's the voice of the people who elect us, and it's the voice of the people that should tell us what they want to come to their community. So my answer is simple. Let's listen to what the people want, ask them what they want, and give them what they want.
Okay, so the final person with an answer is the only person who's actually on the committee. You see what I did there?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so Mr. McKnight, what are you going to advise your fellow committee members as priorities to leverage this economic development?
First of all, I want to thank President Justin Hurst for appointing me to the committee. I appreciate it. But the first thing when we first talked about it, spoke about it, was community input. I think Tracy hit it right on the head that the community needs to be involved. The community needs to have a voice and tell MGM what they want throughout the committee. I think the biggest thing is, as far as economic development, is to spread that money around. And we're talking about after-school programs, community centers, nonprofits. I think that is a big portion of where that money should go.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So this part of the debate, we're going to be getting questions from our media panel. And I think we're going to start with Paul Tuthill from WAMC Radio. Paul?
And thank you. Is it time to retire the trash fee as it currently exists in Springfield? And if so, how would you propose to cover the growing expense of solid waste disposal and the disappearing market for recyclables? Jesse, you want to take that one first?
Thank you so much, Paul. Paul and I go way back. He's been interviewing me since I was a kid, first getting involved in the community. And I appreciate the question because I think this is an example of how, while we've come a long way in the city of Springfield, some of our most challenging issues still lie ahead. Certainly, the trash fee has been a political football for many years. And the truth is that our solid waste disposal budget is only partially covered by the revenue collected by the trash fee. And so if you're going to propose eliminating it, then you need to come up with several $1 million in order to cover the cost of our waste disposal. But there's also a bigger issue at hand, which is that the cost of waste disposal is increasing and the cost of recycling is increasing. And so what we also have to have a conversation about is how we reduce waste overall. In our Climate Action and Resilience Plan, which I work with as chairman of the Committee on Sustainability and Environment, it calls for us to develop a zero waste initiative. And I think that it's time for Springfield to move towards looking to reduce the amount of waste that we get rid of from our community.
And why don't we just go right down the line, Councilor Walsh?
Well, thank you for that question, Paul. And Paul knows all these issues because he's at many of our meetings. I don't think that it's realistic to think that you could actually get rid of the trash fee because I don't know where you would make it up in the budget. But I do think there are serious issues about tonnage and recycling that we need to look into. I know the DPW is coming up with a new plan that they will be trying out in the Forest Park area to try to reduce the amount of recycling materials to try to help in that area. And I think there should be more of a public campaign to let people know what they can do to help. But it's very difficult to take something out of the budget that's been in there for a long time if you really do not have other areas to replace it because there's so many needs on the budget.
Kelly?
Unfortunately, as we all sit up here with plastic bottles filled with water, we're addressing this question. It is unrealistic at this time, unfortunately, to think about eliminating the trash fee when we still have a pension deficit. As wonderful as it would be, when we've all been canvassing, I'm sure everyone has had a comment or two about the trash fee. It is unrealistic. But we did make a great stride this year by eliminating single-use plastic bags in the city, and other cities and towns are following on. So it's that creative thinking that when I'm elected to the city council, I'd love to work with Councilor Letterman on making sure that we have digging in the corners and we're finding other creative ways to make Springfield more sustainable and more green.
Thank you, Paul, for the question. It is a pressing question as I knock on doors and talk to residents about the issues. It always comes up. I would say, again, it is tough to deal with an issue like the trash fee when most cities and towns pay for their trash. Again, if it would ever come up in budget, then I would advocate to let's have a good conversation about it, and always bearing in mind to be fiscally responsible in how we go forward with the issue.
Council President Hurst.
Thank you, Paul, for the question. You know, I don't think it's realistic to eliminate the trash fee. I think what we need to think about is possibly how can we reduce it. You know, when we have these revenue generators, they only come, once or twice over a span of, say, a decade. And so the fact that we've had MGM, and in addition, we're getting ready to have a good amount of revenue come in from recreational marijuana, we need to start thinking about how we can give the taxpayers of Springfield a break. And I think one of the ways in which we can do it is either through property taxes and reducing those, or through reducing the trash fee. And we can do it using some of the money generated from recreational marijuana.
Councilor Whitfield.
As a formal financial analyst for the city of Springfield, I actually worked on the DPW budget and the revolving account that the trash fee, the money go into. And one thing that Jesse Letterman did say is that it only covers part of the fee. What I want to explain to the residents is what they would have to do if we didn't have a trash fee. They would have to purchase bags, take their trash to a dump it there. And so it's a great benefit that we have trash collection in the city of Springfield. I don't think anything is impossible. I think if we bring more businesses to the community, create more home ownership, more revenues going into the general fund, that there is a way, like President Hurst said, that we can reduce the trash fee. And I think that we need to continue to look for those economic development and the companies and organizations that we can bring to the city of Springfield, and that way we have the opportunity to reduce the trash fee.
My grandmother used to always say, where there's a will, there's a way. I feel like the residents need a break. The homeowners, they need a break. And I think the trash fee, I've been saying that for years, gradually eliminating it is the key. Now that we have the casino revenue, now that we're going to have the marijuana revenue, let's give our residents a break with these revenues that's coming in, these revenue streams. So that's what I would propose. I think the innovation of getting rid of the single-use bags, I think that's great. I think we need more of that. But when it comes down to it, with all these revenues coming in, we need to give our homeowners a break, and I think it's about time for us to do that.
Mr. Curran.
I do think that it's unrealistic to get rid of the trash fee at this point. The fact of the matter is it brings upwards to $4 million to the city of Springfield, and we're reliant on those funds and that revenue. However, I do think we need to look into ways in which we can give some relief, especially to our senior citizens who are in their 70s, 80s, and sometimes 90s, who own a home here in the city of Springfield. They've been paying taxes their whole lives, so I think we could probably look at ways to expand a credit for them so they can reduce their tax fee or maybe eliminate that altogether. But to get rid of the tax fee at this time would be unrealistic.
The city council salary, $19,500, hasn't changed since 2014. Do you support a pay raise Why don't we start with Council President Hurst, who gets a $500 additional stipend as Council President, right?
We're going to earn it tonight.
I was going to say, that certainly doesn't amount to the time that I think my colleagues and I put in. If you look at the body of work that my colleagues have done over the last 2 years, it's pretty significant. We probably have passed the most comprehensive legislation, whether it was the responsible employer ordinance, or whether it was the recreational marijuana zoning ordinance, plastic bag reduction ordinance, neighborhood stabilization fund. I can go on and on and on. And what a lot of people don't realize is it is onerous to pass an ordinance. It takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of time. And what I'm proud of the fact is that my colleagues are willing to put in the time and effort to make things like that possible, which ultimately makes Springfield better. We went on a trip to Denver. That was not paid for out of anyone's pocket but our own. That cost a lot of money. The money that we make on the Springfield City Council is minimal in comparison to the amount of money that we have to give back. So absolutely, I do think we need a pay raise, and I think we need to get it out of our hands in terms of us raising our salaries once and for all. Thank you.
We'll just come in order. Councilor Whitfield?
I did vote no for the 51% pay raise. I just want to throw that out there. We do work hard. We do a lot of work. But I think that our taxpayers are burdened enough with property tax, trash fee, and yes, the seniors can get a discount. I just wanted to throw that out there too. And if you need that information, give me a call. But I think that they have enough burden with what they have to pay to the city currently, and I don't think that we should burden them any further. While 19.5 is not a lot of money and we do a lot, I think that we ran for a reason, and that's to help and support our constituents, and I think I can do that on 19.5.
Mr. McKnight?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it, but I do understand what President Justin Hurst is talking about as far as the time and effort that goes into this, because even on the campaign trail, I'm a father, new father, and I spend about $50 on daycare just to come out to events like that, like this. So I mean, it's a lot of your own money and time and effort, and I've witnessed the council actually, leaving the chambers at 11, 12 o'clock. I mean, long nights away from your family. So I do think it constitutes for a raise. How much, I don't know. I think, but you got to take it out their hands and let somebody else dictate that, though.
Mr. Curran?
I am absolutely opposed to the 51% city council pay raise. To raise council salaries to $30,000 is really outrageous. The city council, although it takes a lot of time personally, it is not a full-time job and should not be compensated at that level. There are many people working, let's say, for example, at convenience stores, 40 hours a week, and they're not getting health benefits, they're not getting $30,000, and they're not showing up to meetings maybe once or twice a month for an hour. I understand there's work outside those votes at the city council chambers, but the 51% pay raise is outrageous. This is public service, and as public servants, I don't think we should be raising our salaries to that level.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman?
Thank you very much for the question. I did not support the pay raise proposal when it was brought forward, and respectfully at the time, I said that I did not think this was the appropriate time nor the appropriate process relative to a raise for the city council. Now, let me be clear. I live and breathe this job, and if you are doing this job correctly, then you are probably putting in more than 30, 40 hours a week, and you are doing that around a full-time job. But it is an honor and a privilege to serve the people of the city of Springfield. And I think that when having this discussion, we have to be extraordinarily sensitive to the fact that many of our constituents are working full-time or part-time and making less than $25,000 in their household. Now, I also agree that this should be taken out of the hands of the city council. It's an interesting set of laws that says the council is the only body in the city of Springfield that can set salaries for elected officials. And I also think it's very important to note that that raise did not pass our body, because I do hear a lot of questions about it. So I did oppose it, I continue to oppose it, and I think I want to set the record straight on that.
Councilor Walsh.
Thank you for that, and I'd like to follow up on what Council Letterman just said, is that raise is not on the table. There is no 51% that we are discussing, and having spent many years on the Springfield City Council, there is a lot of time and effort that goes into being on the City Council. Not only what we do in the chambers and committee meetings, but what we do for nonprofits and organizations. I must get, I don't know how many requests to support nonprofits, organizations, clubs in the city of Springfield, which I am happy to do. And I do think that one of the problems with this is that it's the process. The process has to be changed. We have to look at a way that is fair to all those involved. And I'd be very happy to chair or support or look into what other communities do and cities our size. That's something that needs to be done.
Paul, this really needs to be a ballot question. If your counselors are working hard for you and you're engaged with them and they're equally as engaged with you outside of the election cycle, then they deserve a raise. If you're doing it right, like most other people here tonight have stated, it does seem like a full-time job, and it can be a full-time job, but more than 28% of the people that live in the city of Springfield working full-time earn less than $30,000. So on top of that, while most of us have full-time jobs, we'd be getting $30,000 additional dollars. We don't have money like that to spend right now. If we're talking about possibly eliminating a trash fee, where are we going to get the increase to pay a 51% pay raise? Again, let's bring it to the people. Also, it should be noted that an independent council appointed by then President Ramos did suggest a lower pay raise, and that was not acceptable to people.
Paul, in making this decision to run for city councilor, I never thought about the money or having an increase of 51%. So I would not vote in support of a pay increase. I think that public service, it is a lot of hours and very demanding, but again, with the financial restraints that the city currently has, I would vote to not increase our salaries.
All right, I'm Adam Frenier with New England Public Radio, and my first question to you. Springfield in recent years has seen major economic development projects completed, such as the casino, the CRRC, railcar factory. Looking ahead, what should be the next big thing Springfield looks at when it comes to economic development, the next big project? And Mr. Kern, why don't you start?
Well, I was proud to be part of those two projects that you mentioned, CRC, as well as, again, the Springfield Data Center, as well as working with officials to bring MGM here to Springfield. Right now, currently, I think the major projects in the state and nationally is infrastructure investment. And I do believe, and I'd call tonight for the City Council to have a subcommittee on infrastructure, transportation investment. Governor Baker has proposed in the last month, and he's been working on it the last 6 months, $18 billion in a bond bill for infrastructure investments. Here in the city of Springfield, we need to renew talk about making the 91 viaduct a surface road. Why shouldn't we ask for projects such as that? We need renewed talk about improving rail here in the city of Springfield. But currently, we're not speaking to those issues, and we need to get a little bit more proactive. In Boston, they're going to be allocated about $6 billion. Right now in Springfield, we don't have a committee, we don't have a plan, and we don't have a plan of action. So infrastructure investments would be the top priority.
Mr. McKnight?
I would have to say making Springfield more of a family-friendly place to live. And also fixing our streets and roads. I think that is huge. Infrastructure is something that needs to be talked about, just like Sean said, and I would be for that conversation. But just making Springfield more family friendly, because we want to attract the best talent, and we want our families to be comfortable here. So I think that's what we need to look at.
Ms. Whitfield?
Well, when I think about economic development, I look at the homes that's in the city of Springfield that are blighted, empty, and I think that that is something that we really need to focus on. There's a lot of resources in the city of Springfield to help folks purchase those homes and also fix them, but they don't know about them. We need to get our educational resources out to the community so they'll know what's available to them. We can't just stay downtown at City Hall and expect all the communities to know. As part of my tax business, I'm a small business owner. I have helped 5 families fix their credit and purchase homes in the city of Springfield, and they have purchased multifamily homes. And we know when folks own their homes, they take pride in the neighborhood, and that's what we want to do. We want to beautify our neighborhoods, and we want folks to be proud to live in the city of Springfield. Most people already are, but there's some that need a little push. And I think that once we beautify the neighborhoods, more businesses, more folks will want to move here and stay. And we have to work on the blight in the homes in our community that's here.
Mr. Hurst?
Thank you for the question. I think the next big economic development in the city of Springfield will probably be East to West Rail. I think once you open up East to West Rail, you open up a lot of other opportunities in terms of people wanting to come and take advantage of a city like Springfield. In addition, I think we need to not necessarily set our sights on the next big economic development boom in the city of Springfield. I think we need to focus on what we have already. With respect to our small businesses, we have a number of small businesses, and we need to make sure that they have the resources to be successful in growing the medium-sized and large-sized businesses to employ the people in the city of Springfield. And then finally, I think we need to invest in human capital. I think human capital is absolutely critical. I don't think you'll have any of these big-time businesses that are looking to come to the city of Springfield if our kids are not well-versed in the skills that are necessary to make them successful at the next level.
Go right above Councilor Hurst.
Yes, I would say let's improve on what we have. Let's start modestly, basic infrastructure, roads. When you go to Boston, when you go to New York, you like going because it's nice. It's for the most part, the streets are clean. So let's also invest in our youth so that we can give them a reason why they want to stay in the city of Springfield. I think that the rail study is an excellent way of getting more people, beautifying our neighborhoods, and definitely improving on public safety.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. The tax base in the city of Springfield is woefully low. It's terribly inadequate. Unless we do something about getting people here to live, work, and play, we won't be able to do things like eliminate the trash fee. A number of years ago, we employed a third-party consulting firm to do an extensive research and create a marketing plan that never happened. It never came to light. I'd like to dust off that marketing plan. It highlighted shovel-ready sites. For instance, the shovel-ready site that soon became CRRC after the casino deal, and that site fell through. Those are the types of things that were highlighted in that marketing plan. Proximity to Bradley International Airport, proximity to 91, proximity to schools and universities all throughout Springfield and Western New England. We need to dust off that marketing plan and really tout Springfield as a place to live, work, and play. When we do that, people will want to come, people will want to set up shop, people will want to buy that first home and put their children through the Springfield Public Schools, and that's economic development.
Go ahead.
Thank you. By the time you get to me now with this question, everybody, you have all my ideas. I've got to think of something new to say. But I do agree about high-speed rail. I think that will be the biggest economic engine for the city of Springfield if we could have high-speed rail. I'm proud to say I was the lead sponsor on the council for high-speed rail, and I have gone down to Boston. I am working with Senator Eric Lesser to bring that to us. It will be it will open up our housing market. It will create activity for people to want to come and move here. I mean, the values of our houses compared to what people pay in Boston, it will be absolutely huge. But I also agree that we need to help small businesses. I also created the Small Business Neighborhood Development Committee. We met in every neighborhood of the city to reach out to people, to help them understand the process for applying for and getting through the red tape. Was able to help start the pedicabs. I was able to help bring FW Webb here. So we also have to continue to retain the businesses that are here and create opportunities.
Counselor?
Adam, thanks for the question. It's nice to see you in person. I think we've only ever talked on the phone, but we've done it several times, so nice to meet you in person. One of the things I value most about the City Council and service on the City Council is that it is truly a unique elected body in that it's a collective voice of 13 councilors. And I think that what you saw presented by my colleagues here at the table today really represents that our city is well served by folks that have our best interests at heart. I agree with everything that was said by my colleagues, and I would be honored to work with them to bring many of those projects to fruition. For me, the next big economic development initiative that I'd like to focus on is really a series of smaller economic development initiatives. I think that if we invest in our neighborhood centers, and that includes infrastructure, which we've started through the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund that Councilor Hurst Whitfield and I sponsored in the last year, we will be able to revitalize neighborhoods, which will attract more individuals. It will bring businesses and increase the tax revenue to the city of Springfield, and also value for the people that already live here.
Thank you all for your very thoughtful responses. Shifting gears, a recent executive order by President Trump, among other things, would require cities and states to get permission from communities to have refugees resettled there. Mayor Sarno said recently that he's taking a wait-and-see approach to this, but he's concerned about capacity issues with the city. Should Springfield allow more refugees to be resettled here? And we'll go back the other way so that you have the first crack at this, Councilor Letterman.
Adam, thank you for the question. The city of Springfield is the third largest community in Massachusetts. We're the largest city in Western Massachusetts. Many social services and public transportation are concentrated here, and as such, we are often a place where folks come when they first come to the United States. My wife is the daughter of immigrants. We are a country that was built by immigrants, and we are a country of immigrants. I believe that we need to work together with the federal government. We need to work together with the agencies in the city of Springfield to ensure that we are equipped to accept new residents into the city of Springfield and welcome them with open arms and help them to pursue the American dream. And so certainly I think that we have seen a number of actions over the last several years by this administration at the federal level that would suggest that the United States is moving away from being a country of immigrants. And I certainly don't accept that. I don't stand for that. And my record speaks clearly on that issue.
Councilor?
Well, I think that, Springfield is a city of immigrants, and every time that we have a flag raising, we talk about the tapestry of Springfield and what the immigrants have brought to the city and the cultures that they are preserving and passing on to their children. And because we are the hub in Western Mass, many people want to come here. So I think we have to be cognizant of what we can actually do. And if you're talking about Springfield being a welcoming city, I think the record is that we received more students and families after the hurricanes in Puerto Rico and welcomed them here. And I think we should continue to do that.
Councilor?
I think recognizing an inflow of immigrants is the proper thing to do. We just need to do it with empathy, and we need to do it with consideration. There are capacity issues in our city. We have schools that have capacity-filled classrooms. Most of those schools, we're now embarking on a project to replace 2 schools, which is fabulous. But we have infrastructure issues that we need to address first so that we can, with compassion and with dignity, welcome immigrants into our city. Everyone in this room tonight is an immigrant. Someone came from somewhere else, and we need to recognize that. But let's do it soundly. Let's look for some state and federal aid so that we can do it properly and that we can welcome students from all neighborhoods and all nations into classrooms that have the latest technology, people have affordable homes and housing to live in, and that we have an infrastructure in which they feel supported.
Go ahead.
I agree with what my colleagues say. We have to keep in mind, be responsible in how we do it without affecting or overstraining our current systems here in Springfield. As a Puerto Rican, I appreciate diversity. I appreciate culture, and I think it makes us better people. I think it'll make us a better city, but we also have to be responsible to the budgets and the constraints and the residents that are here, working with agencies like Jewish Family Services, where they do great work, welcoming families and working collaboratively is what I would support.
Councilor?
The short answer is yes. I absolutely think we should be a welcoming city to immigrants. But I think you also have to be a welcoming city to additional funding. I think when you welcome immigrants, there are a lot of services that go along with that. And certainly I don't mind, but I want everybody to make sure that they assist in pay their fair share, to assist us if we're going to be the home city where immigrants like to come. We're a very receptive and receiving city, but I want the Long Meadows and the East Long Meadows of the world to certainly help foot some of the bill. In addition, we need to make sure that our classrooms are equipped with translators and with any other services that our students might need. We need to make sure that we give funding for smaller classrooms so that these children that come here can receive the benefit of one-on-one with teachers. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So yes, my short answer is yes as well. I think that we need to be an accepting community and I think the question was about refugees. And normally when you talk about refugees, they're running from something. They're leaving a worse situation to come here. And you did mention the mayor, and he touts the fact that his parents came to America and as immigrants and that they were successful. Well, I think that we need to give other people the chance to come to America and to Springfield and build and be successful in a safe environment. And a lot of the times, funding do follow the refugees that come into our communities. And so waiting to see what's gonna come, well, when they do go to work, they pay into unemployment and other services that they do not get the benefit of. So if they're laid off, they do not qualify for unemployment. However, they pay into those services. And I don't think that's a fair policy, but it's happening. So yes, I do think refugees should be welcomed into Springfield.
When we talk about refugees, it kind of hits home for me because my daughter's godfather, he is from Bosnia. He was a refugee, him and his mother. His father wasn't able to make it with them, escaping Bosnia. But, when I talked to him about, how did you learn English when you first came here? He said Nas taught him. He said listen to the Nas Illmatic taught him how to, learn English. And now today, I'm so proud of him because he's a lawyer. He has a daughter of his own. And his wife is a nurse. He's paying property taxes. He's very successful. He's, a lawyer for DCF kids, and I think that's commendable. So if we didn't give him the chance to come over here, he wouldn't have all those opportunities. And look what he's done for himself. I think he has an amazing story, and he really did something terrific. So I say, with open arms, as many as we can get.
The city of Springfield has always been a city of immigrants. My two parents are immigrants themselves, so I'm very familiar with the immigrant experience. And so I support immigration from everywhere. But I also support job creation so that when new arrivals come to our city, they have jobs to go to. So I think we really need to concentrate on economic development and job creation as well as welcoming new immigrants.
Okay. Thank you all for your answers. That's everybody, right? Okay. We'll move on to the next question, and I'll start with Mr. Rivera. So a candidate for Springfield City Council currently has been accused. I'm too short for this, aren't I? Okay, here we go. I'll start again. I'm going to start the questions with Mr. Rivera. A current candidate for Springfield City Council has been accused of posting transphobic and racist comments on social media before he was a candidate. Have you ever posted something on social media that you regret? And how much does social media influence a candidate's run for office?
Thank you, Ms. Roman. I do have a Facebook account. Prior to running for city council, it was inactivated for 4 years. I have never wrote anything disrespectful or anything that would offend people. So I think that definitely you have to be careful with what you post, and you have to be conscious and responsible when using social media.
We'll work our way.
Sure. If you look on my Facebook page, you'll see a lot of dog pictures, a heck of a lot of home improvement pictures, and maybe an occasional Sunday morning mimosa. The candidate in question needs to step out of the race. He has disqualified himself by his tone, his tenor, his words, and his action. Worse off, he's now trying to backtrack by blaming technology and his former colleagues. He's trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and we all know how that works. It doesn't.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, because that's, and because you're asking, I'm going to say I post pictures of ice cream. But it's a whole new phenomena, social media, and I try to focus in on events in the city of Springfield. I try to highlight the good in the city of Springfield because I am the mother of 7 and have 11 grandchildren. There are a lot of family pictures. No longer have dogs, but we have gone through dogs, rabbits, cats, and whatever. And I try to be very thoughtful in what I do and to let people know that Springfield is a great place and wonderful things are happening here.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, I use social media as a tool, as an elected official, to reach out and converse with my constituents. And outside of perhaps some teenage declarations of love years ago, I stand by what has been posted on my Facebook page. Relative to the comments that have come to light from the individual in this race, Mr. Poner, I believe I was the first elected official to denounce the comments. And I didn't denounce them because it's an election year or because this person was running against me. I denounced them because those comments showed a clear pattern of contempt and disregard for entire populations in our city of Springfield. And as a city councilor, I take an oath to stand up for the people that I represent. And anybody who holds the views espoused in those comments has disqualified themselves from representing the people of the city of Springfield. And it is extraordinarily important, especially in these times, for our constituents to know that we will stand up for them and stand up against hatred and bigotry.
Okay, we'll continue with Mr. Hurst and then work our way down the line.
Thank you. No, I don't think I'm a millennial. And so I have a tough time with posting to Facebook, period. I think one of my biggest issues is that I might spell something wrong, or something about my grammar might not be right, or the fact that I revise my sentences 2, 3, or 4 times before I post it because I know everybody is paying attention. And so I operate, certainly when I'm in a public forum, as though everybody is paying attention. And I think if people follow that model, then they won't make the missteps that the candidate that you're referring to has made. Thank you.
So, me personally, I use Facebook to provide information and resources to the constituents of the community. I at times post my opinions, and people may not agree with them, but they are never hate-related, they are never misogynistic, they are never just disgusting comments that this candidate has posted. We all know the name. I did get in trouble once for something that my children post. And so the way that I chastise them is the way that I will chastise this candidate. It's unacceptable. You should never post anything. No one should have access to your Facebook account, if that's the case, to be able to post anything like that. So while I don't believe that that is the case, you will be chastised because we are here to work for the community. And the way that I chastise my children, because they're young, stupid millennials, I will chastise you.
I post pictures of my daughter and my fiance, really basically family pictures. As far as Mr. Poner, pray for him. We all make mistakes. We all say things that are hurtful at times, but I hope we grow. For him to have that much hate in his heart for, individuals and groups, I feel bad for him, and I hope that he changes his ways. But, all I can do is pray for that brother and hopefully that he changes and becomes a better human being, That's really all I have to say about that.
As to the comments made, they are disqualifying comments and they need to be repudiated. I don't believe at all that they reflect the vision and the values of the residents of Springfield, which historically have always been towards equality. Whether 150 years ago when Samuel Bowles, the founder of the Republican, and John Brown fought in the abolitionist movement, or 50 years ago when my colleague Benjamin Swan marched against Jim Crow, the citizens of Springfield have always been known, even nationally, as a city that supports equality and equality of opportunity for everybody of every background. And I do believe on November 5th, the voters, again, will stand up for equality and make their voices heard. As for the Facebook, again, I'm a little bit older. I never, until I ran for city council, actually had a Facebook page. I just recently had a flip phone, so as for Facebook, that's my knowledge of technology.
Thank you. For my second question, with INSA suing the current city council after their special permit was rejected, I'm curious whether you think the process to award marijuana permitting has been fair, and if not, how would you change the process? And we will start with, who was last? We'll start with Mr. Letterman.
Thank you for the question. You know, I won't comment on pending litigation other than to say that I stand by my words and my record, but I do believe that the process has been fair. And certainly, serving in my first term on the Springfield City Council, it was an incredible experience to be a part of crafting the zoning ordinance and the general ordinances relative to standing up what is truly an entirely new industry in the city of Springfield. And being one of the first places in the United States to do that, it really took city councilors working very diligently, doing a lot of research, in some cases, as my colleagues, some field research, to put together what I believe is truly some of the strongest regulations in the state. We worked very hard to make sure that we would not see an over-concentration. We worked very hard to make sure that the revenue that will eventually come through our Neighborhood Stabilization Act would go into the neighborhoods and communities that need it most for the things that we need most in the city of Springfield. And so I do stand by the process.
As my colleague, President Hirsch, stated earlier, 4 of us did go out to Denver when we realized that marijuana as an industry was coming to the city of Springfield to find out the best practices, to find out what worked and what didn't work. And I think we brought back a lot of that information with us, and that we did craft an ordinance and regulation for marijuana that was fair to the citizens of Springfield and to the people that want to bring businesses here. And I also think that, the whole process of the businesses having to go out and introduce themselves to neighborhoods has been very fair. So a lot of people have had voices in who actually will be getting these licenses. And I think the process has been fair. I do think they should open it up to more than 4 businesses.
This is a new frontier for Massachusetts and certainly for Springfield. And I will credit the council for having a ton of due diligence behind them when making their choices. I do feel that the process has been very fair. I do disagree with the decision not to allow INSA downtown in the old Lux Burger location. Their medical dispensary is on Cottage Ave, and if you think about people having to get off a highway, they could just as easily get off of 291, go to Cottage Street rather, and get right back on the highway. So I don't really see much of a difference between them getting off of 91 and going down to the old Lux Burger site and getting back on versus Cottage Street and 291 and back on the Mass Pike.
Whether it be marijuana, a food truck, any other business entity, I would say that we have to be fair across the board, make sure that we're responsible to the community at large, and that we give the people bidding for these licenses and permits a fair hearing and a fair process. So again, across the board with any entity that wants to do business in the city of Springfield.
We'll continue with Mr. Curran and work our way down.
In terms of the marijuana licensing, I do think that there was some hiccups in the process. I don't think it was proper to deny the license for a business without a legitimate reason, especially when that business, I think, had probably the most outstanding portfolio of the other 3 companies. So in regards to the marijuana licensing, I think it's really a reflection on the city council, and it sends a message that the city is not ready or open to business. If you're a business looking to expand from Boston and come to the city of Springfield, first thing in your mind is, are we going to be held up by the Springfield City Council? We're not the only game in town. People can go to East Long Meadow. They can go to the Berkshires. They can go to Northern Connecticut. They can go to Vermont. And when the city council really has no legitimate reason for denying a multi-million-dollar business a license, I think it just sends a message that we're not open, that we're not serious about job creation and increasing our tax revenue.
Regarding your question, can I allot my time to Justin?
No.
Would
You
need
could choose
some-
not to answer, but you can't allot your time to someone else.
You know, I would love for him to kind of answer this question because I know that we've spoke about it on many occasions, and I know he has good reason for his position, and yeah, I'll let him speak about it.
About to say you might find yourself in court. You don't.
All right, we'll continue with Ms. Whitfield then.
I was appointed to the selection committee by President Hearst, and so I think the process was very fair. I think if you don't know the whole process, you probably shouldn't comment that it isn't. We read 27 applications, pages ranging from 300 to 600, and we read all 27. We sat in a room and we deliberated over them for hours. I took my personal vacation time off of work to do that, and so I think the process was very fair in who we recommended to the city council. Now, if you're talking about who the city council selected, that's a whole different avenue than the selection process of the companies that was brought forward. I won't talk about INSA either because we are in litigation, so I will not talk about that. But what I do want to say is that we need to open up the pool and bring cultivation to the city of Springfield because our tax revenue should not go to other cities and towns. If we're going to have marijuana dispensaries here, we need to supply the product to bring tax revenue to reduce trash fees that we keep talking about in property tax.
All right, we'll finish with Mr. Hurst, but he only gets the 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, I think the process was fair. The city council created the process, and in fact, it was my recommendation to make sure that we had a city councilor on the selection team. I think Councilor Whitfield did an excellent job. My issue comes well before we got to recreational marijuana. The issues that I have with respect to INSA are the fact that from 2007 to 2012, the owner of INSA was an associate solicitor in the city of Springfield. By happenstance, we ultimately end up giving INSA a monopoly. Not because the city council wanted to give them a monopoly, but because the mayor of Springfield had sole selection over who was going to be presented to the city council for us to approve. He approved one individual, and that was INSA. And in fact, they approved it with the caveat that they had a 10-year monopoly. In my opinion, that's a problem. I also received three checks in advance of voting for INSA from the owners of INSA. I have a problem with that. I also have a problem with their consultants. I have a problem with how closely tied they are to the mayor and his administration. And I think it needs to be looked at.
Thanks very much, folks, for answering those questions from our media panel. Liz Roman of the Republican, Adam Frenier from New England Public Radio, and Paul Tuthill from WAMC. Okay, so now this is the Worldwide Wrestling section of the program. No one has to throw a chair at one another, and there's no turnbuckle, but the whole process that we're going to go now to close out this event is each of the candidates gets to ask a question to any other candidate about any subject. That candidate will answer, and then the person who is asked the question has a 30-second rebuttal if they so desire. So we're going to start out with Sean Curran. Sean, who would you like to ask a question to, and what is that question?
I'll ask a question to our veteran member of the city council. You've served on the city council for many years. Can you name what are the accomplishments that you're most proud of? And that would be to Ms. Catering Walsh.
Well, thank you for pointing out my record of service to the citizens of Springfield. I'm proud of many things that I've done on the Springfield City Council, mostly is public participation and improving the way that the council meetings are run. I was appointed to be chair of the Rules Committee by then President Jose Tosado. No one had looked at the city council rules in over 50 years, so we went through them to make sure that they were serving the city of Springfield, and we actually have improved things like the meeting times and giving people more access to public speak. You know, when I was a member of the control board, public speak was not allowed until I came on there. That was the first thing I did on the control board, was to make sure that citizens were heard when they came before that board. I continued that for the city of Springfield. There have been so many different things that I have done on the city. My work with women and girls, being a mentor, my work on bringing small businesses here. But you know, when it comes down to, Sean, it comes down to the small things. Helping people getting a job, helping people get a pothole fixed. Just today on my street, helping somebody get the trees off of their car. These are the kind of things
that's time, Catering. That's time right now. Okay.
To be continued.
To be continued. Sean, do you have a 30-second rebuttal, or?
I don't. You can
Okay,
go to the
that's
next
fine.
step.
You don't have to. Okay, I'm just going to mix it around the podium here. So, Kelly, who would you like to ask a question to, and what would that question be?
This question will be for candidate Curran. If you are elected, what will be the first piece of legislation that you introduce and sponsor?
Again, I think the first piece of legislation is to form a committee to look at Governor Baker's $18 billion transportation bond bill. Currently in the city of Boston, Mayor Walsh, who again is also a former state representative, he's got at least 50 people working on this. This is a major, once-in-a-lifetime piece of legislation in the state of Massachusetts that the city council has really been kind of silent on. We have major infrastructure problems from our roads to our bridges. If you go to the North End Bridge in the North End, to bridges like the Dwight Street underpass, they're in complete disrepair. They haven't been painted in years. The sidewalk repair is atrocious in all of our neighborhoods. And again, I think we need to look at the big picture. Let's talk about that surface road for I-91. Let's reconnect MGM to the riverfront and to downtown to the riverfront. With $18 billion on the table, these things are possible, and we need, as a council, we need to get proactive about this bond bill.
Okay, Kelly, do you have a rebuttal?
I do not. Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Israel, who would you like to ask a question to?
I would like to ask Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Whitfield, your background in workforce development is key in communities like Springfield in terms of addressing the disadvantages that at times limit our residents in obtaining gainful employment. What other viable resources do you feel is needed to help close the gap, whether vocational, educational, of men, women, and the youth of the city?
Thank you for the question. So I do work in workforce development, and I think we have the best resources right in our backyard. We have Springfield Technical Community College, which is my employer, and we also have Putnam Vocational High School. Right now, they have joined forces, and they have created a co-op situation where Putnam students will be getting the hands-on training that they need to make livable wages. I also go into businesses and organizations, and I upskill the entry-level employees with training. And so what happens is they're trained on CNC operation is just one of the avenues that I could think of. And so they're entry-level, they learn CNC operations, and they get like $5, $10 raises. And so when you have money to make livable wage, you don't have to work 2 jobs. You can go back to school and get an education. You can provide better for your family. And I think that that is just like the best avenue to just get these skill sets up to make that livable wage.
And do you have a rebuttal?
No, thank you, Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you for the question.
Okay, Jesse Letterman, who would you like to ask a question to, and what that question would be?
Certainly. Well, first I want to thank all of my colleagues up here for putting their names forward. It's not easy to run for office, and there's actually only one candidate up here who is a first-time candidate, and that's Mr. Rivera. I know how difficult it can be to get the message out as a first-time candidate. So, Mr. Rivera, I just wanted to see if there's a particular part of your platform that you would like to highlight tonight for the voters at home.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Thank you for your work with the body. Again, I'm passionate about the city. Investing in our communities one person at a time is one of my platforms. Helping people do better, helping people obtain access to services a lot better. When you talk about public safety, what can we do to enhance the current C3 models? What can we do to enhance policing in our communities is one of the things that, as a former corrections officer and a criminal justice professional, I am well versed at. So I think that we can definitely do better in terms of public safety, delivery of services, and education. Thank you.
And do you have a rebuttal?
Only to say that I think Mr. Rivera raises some excellent points, and I think what this highlights about the city of Springfield and about the Springfield City Council is how important building coalitions and relationships is to passing legislation. Certainly, nobody walks in to the Springfield City Council chamber and can simply declare something to be. It's about working together, and I'd be honored to work with anybody up here to move our city forward.
Okay. Johnny, who would you like to ask a question to?
To Councilor Hurst. It's a two-part question. Would you like to elaborate on the INSA? The second part is, what are you most proud about of your work on the city council these last couple of years?
So the only thing I'll add with respect to INSA is the fact that I think it's absurd that a law firm who receives, over the last 2 years, over $1 million from the city of Springfield somehow finds itself in a position to sue the city of Springfield. I don't know whose fault it is, but in my opinion, it seems like there's a serious conflict of interest here. And I don't know if it's on the administration or whether Bulkley Richardson disclosed that fact that they were representing a potential client who could possibly sue the city. But it's a problem, and it's something that needs to be looked into. What was your second question?
What are you most proud about on the city council last couple of years?
I think I'm most proud about this year. I've been able to work with a wonderful council who I think is poised and on the cusp of greatness and doing great things for the citizens of Springfield, and our city should be proud.
Okay. Johnny, do you have any sort of rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Okay. Tracy, who would you like to ask a question to?
My question is for Kelly Moriarty Finn. And my question is, why do you think it's a good idea to tax places of worship like the mosques, cathedrals, kingdom halls, and churches that are funded mainly by Springfield residents after tax dollars?
That's a great question. Thank you, Counselor. Actually, the other night I stated that I was in favor of not only taxing churches, but colleges and universities in the city. They take advantage of a lot of the public safety offerings that our taxpayers pay for. If Springfield College had a fire tonight, we would call out the Springfield Fire Department, and they would come and they would put out the fire. The same thing if a shooting were to happen at a mosque, our SPD would show up and they would protect and they would serve the people who are worshiping at their mosque. It is only fair in a city where we are looking at a pension deficit and we are thinking about creative ways to help boost our city coffers that we ask not only places of worship, but institutions who make a lot of money. Institutions of higher learning are not poor institutions. We should be asking them to pay their fair share. Not equal between churches and universities, but everyone can afford something.
Okay, Tracy, do you have a rebuttal
Yes,
for
I
that?
do.
Okay.
Being a member of the church, there are a lot of services that come out of the church. And also being a member of the community, working as the co-chair of the Mason Square C3, I also see that the colleges do a lot for the community that they pay for out of their pockets. And I just wanted to say the way to bring revenue into the community is to grow the economy, not to burden already stretched pillars in the community that are out there every day working hard. The mosque actually provides security to prevent gun violence and violence from happening. And Springfield College has stepped up and to provide some resources to the community that maybe folks don't know about if they're not out in the community working with them.
Okay. Okay, that was her rebuttal.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Cateri, who would you like to ask a question to?
Well, I would also like to state that I think that the current city council works really well as a team, and that we have done some really good things for the city of Springfield. We're very different, but we come together and have done a lot, and I think all of us have the best interests of Springfield at heart. But I'd like to talk a little about something that we all talk about when we're out meeting with people, and that's the Springfield Public Schools. So I'm going to ask Councilor Hurst, because I've heard you talk so many times about the schools. Just share some of the great successes that our Springfield schools have had.
Well, I usually leave that up to you, Cateri. The first I'll talk about is the music and the arts. You know, I know you're a big proponent of
Absolutely.
culture and arts and education, and you know, the fact that we're able to hire 34 new arts and music teachers so that every school is provided with art and music, I think is critical. You know, we always talk about ways to keep kids in school, and not everybody is books, 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 books. You know, we all learn differently. So I think that certainly is an asset. In addition, we've added over 300 pre-K slots. And when you talk about solving issues of violence in the city of Springfield, well, first of all, if you're not reading at grade level by grade, I think it's 3, by the 3rd or 4th grade, then you automatically put yourself on track to end up in the penal system. So the fact that we were able to do things like that that are going to help our kids move forward and be successful, I think is critical.
Okay, Cateri, you've got 30 seconds if you need to make a rebuttal.
Sure. It's on a personal level. I mean, I was thrilled that art and music are coming back to the Springfield Public Schools because my mother was an art teacher and my late sister was the art teacher at Putnam. So I know that there are many students that will benefit from that will make their classroom experiences better and their self-esteem. And also, you know, every student in Springfield gets a laptop. There are great things going on in our schools that need to be highlighted.
Okay, so out of deference, because he's the sitting council president, I'm going to give Justin Hurst the last opportunity to ask one of the fellow candidates a question. Justin, who do you want to talk to?
Let me also highlight, Cateri, my wife is on the school committee, so I couldn't have said anything negative there. And my kids go to the Springfield Public Schools. So my last question will be, the final question will be to Johnny Ray McKnight. Johnny, I love your tenacity and your courage to run for public office. I know it's not easy, and I know a few years ago you ran for mayor, and I know currently you're running for city council. Can you tell the public a little bit more about the attributes that you have that will make you a good city councilor if elected?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the question. I do have an MBA from the AIC, American International College here in Springfield. And also, I'm an operations manager at a staffing company, and we staff construction jobs throughout Massachusetts. The reason why I want to be on city council because I want to be an advocate for our senior citizens, bring economic development to all 17 neighborhoods, help combat the opioid epidemic, invest in more after-school programs. I think that's very, very important. Create bike lanes for us and our children. Fix our roads and our streets. I think those are definitely things that I would like to get accomplished on the city council, but I know that's a collective thing. And I appreciate, city councilors like Tracy Whitfield and Justin Hurst and Cateri Walsh and Jesse Letterman.
Okay, you've got your time there.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, do you have a 30-second rebuttal?
I just will say that, I think you're I think you're a role model for fathers who are looking to run for office who have infants. The fact that you brought your infant to the very first debate and still were able to get through it, in my opinion, was a feat that will make you a great city councilor at some point in time. So
I appreciate it.
I wish you well.
Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this would conclude our broadcast and conclude our debate. I hope that you appreciate the fact that these candidates came out, answered questions, a variety of questions about their stances and their experiences, and then indulged in the unabashed love fest for the last few minutes.
I thought it was going to be a slugfest.
As a journalist, I was hoping for at least some throwing of water bottles about, but that wasn't. So actually that says something positive. It says that even though these candidates are vying for so many positions on the city council, they are civil. They are obviously dedicated to the democratic process, and they're obviously proud of serving the city of Springfield, and that should be congratulated and appreciated. So thank you very much for viewing this tonight. If for some reason you didn't see all of it, it's going to be up on the Focus Springfield website. And Reminder Publications will also be putting it on its website and its Facebook page as well. So I hope that you take the opportunity to tell your friends and neighbors to get a little bit more acquainted with these candidates by watching this debate there. Thanks very much, and thank you for watching Focus Springfield.